Hey, welcome to Combat Vet Vision. Hey, this is a platform for us as veterans, combat veterans, sponsors, supporters, volunteers, businesses to be able to come out here and kind of talk about what they're doing to either sponsor, support us, or our veterans to tell their stories, why it's important for us to kind of move forward in positive directions, or the chaos that ensues in our lives to kind of tell a story of where we're at and what we're doing. And I'm Aaron Seibert. I'm your host, retired Navy chief. Lucky to be alive after being hit with a mortar round April 2006. And I'm lucky to be here with JB, my co-host, Chef JB, world-renowned chef, and just out there slinging it and still helping out the community in so many different ways. Coast Guard veteran, JB, thanks for being here.
Hey,
good to see you.
Good morning, man. It's great to be here. I hear we have a really good guest today, too.
Yeah, we do. Mikel Conrad, Mike's Photography out of Henderson, Nevada, on deck today. I spent some time in his studio just recently. He reached out to me. I went in and got some photographs, with my medals, and just kind of presented myself and stuff. And he wants to capture 250 veteran stories every year. He does this big project. It's really cool. He's going to talk about that. He's going to talk about some things. These are the guys that are inspiring to the veteran community to capture stories and do some really cool things. So I'm looking forward to his story. So Mike, hey, thanks a lot for being on deck, brother.
Hey man, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. You guys are rock stars. Thank you for all you do in your service.
Hey, it was great to come down there with my wife the other day, come into your studio. You reached out to me. You said, hey, bring your medals, put them on a suit, whatever you got to do. Let's get some photos, bring your wife, dress her up, get in here. And you want to do some free photos, and get us some, opportunity to kind of just be a present and tell a story. And when I went in there was a frozen chosen Marine in there coming out, still standing tall, walking really well. He's on a cane, but his wife was super proud of him. We spent some time talking.
94 years old.
94 years old, telling the Tootsie Roll story where they ordered Tootsie Rolls and in the hopes of that was code word for getting the bullets. However, they got Tootsie Rolls instead, which was a lifesaver to begin with, because they ended up with all these Tootsie Rolls and they kept them in their pockets. That's what kept them alive and they were frozen Tootsie Rolls, but they would, pull them out and eat them, and that kept him going. So, it was a really cool story to hear that and to hear his story a little bit. And he was on his way out the door, but hey, it was great. Your studio's right downtown, right off Water Street, doing some cool stuff. But go ahead. Hey, tell your story. What you grew up in Henderson. You have some.
I did. I'm considered Henderson's photographer. Been there my whole life, 62 years now, right there in Group on Water Street. So my studio is actually, there used to be a Winchell's Donut Shop right there where my studio is. I used to work at that Winchell's Donut Shop. So I've come back to where the place I used to work when I was in high school, type thing. So I didn't go very far. So roots are just too deep in Henderson. Grew up in Henderson my whole life. Married a girl next door. 4 kids, 6 grandkids. It's just we're blessed to be able to be part of Henderson and be able to share its history and its community and its spirit. As you know, Henderson was built upon the foundations of World War II. And everything they did for us, for the military back then, with magnesium plants and the power and the rocket fuel plants and everything. So it was built on the shoulders of World War II. It's kind of a cool story.
Wow, well, you're a bit of a historian then with regards to that, for one, and obviously you're capturing a lot of history with our military guys that you're wanting to do. Catching that patriotism and giving that feedback as a business owner, as a business guy. You're down there. You're still working the business. Yep. You seem to be doing it. It's your passion project of yours.
Yes, yeah. I tell people all the time, families, executives, and the typical things you photograph all the time. That's the bread and butter. But my passions are my veterans, my cowboys, and my bikers. Those are my 3 passions.
Great combination.
Besides I do a lot of scenic artwork and scenic photography, but those are my 3 passions for photographing people, telling their stories. As photographers, we are storytellers, and anybody can take a picture, but to capture a story, to capture a moment, to make it look good, that's a little bit different skills and things that we do. And what started me on this journey is about 10 years ago when my uncle turned 80. He gave me a set of slides from his time during Europe, during the Korea conflict. And he was out there in Europe. It had 600 slides. And I turned it into a book for him. And he actually had stories and can remember about 80% of those slides, where they were from, what was going on, who was who, whatnot. And I thought, there's more guys out there who have stories. And it's not about a Saving Private Ryan story. It's about just human interest stories. They went and served, they did their job, and the things and people they met. And so that started me on my journey to my umbrella, as I call it, of remembering our veterans one story at a time. And so I've been photographing veterans for about almost 8 years. World War II, Korea, Vietnam. Got heavily involved with Honor Flight. I go every 6 months to photograph their stories and that whole trip on Honor Flight. And just, I'm
so Belinda and Donna and all of them.
What's that, Chef?
I said he knows. That's excellent. He knows Gretchen and Belinda and Donna and all of them.
Yep.
The Honor Flight.
They're all rock stars. So, and that's what started my project. The 250 project was America's birthday. I remember in 1976, I was a young man, and I remember through all Henderson, they would paint the fire hydrants as patriot men. They'd paint them all up as part of the celebration for Centennial in 1976. They had all the fire hydrants across town were painted as patriot men, Minutemen, all across the valley. It was kind of cool. I painted 2 of them, and it was kind of cool. So I remember that, and I thought, what can I do for the 250th? And so that's where this little, brainstorm came up with, of photographing another 250 servicemen and women that served our country, and from those who are just entering the military service to those, the oldest veteran I photographed is 104, and then working with the sons and daughters of the Revolutionary War, and just trying to encapsulate a full look of what 250 years of military service looks like, and kind of put a face and a story to the freedoms that we have. Because I think people out nowadays take a lot of it for granted, and they don't realize, that what's been given to us, there's been a sacrifice for, and so I just want to make them sure they remember that. We don't forget it, because we get different times, different things are happening nowadays. So.
Definitely. I feel definitely the world moves at such a fast pace. It's really easy to kind of forget where our freedoms come from. And, it's not, it's really hard in a lot of ways, because, you're taking on a project that is a passion project.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are trying to, figure out how they're going to make their next paycheck and whatnot. And they don't really have time to really dive into painting fire hydrants anymore, and really seeing some of these cool. I mean, I remember going to some really cool things when I was a kid with my dad, and he was a firefighter and he served in Vietnam, and it just seemed like there was just a lot more patriotism that really existed, and love for the country. And that's what's really cool for me, to see a business like yours, a photography business in the middle of Henderson, calling me in to, get a photographer, get my photo taken, and because you want to put this 250, project together. And you have a banner right outside your studio.
I do. I got a big
right on the street.
Right there, QR code, hook it up, and there's all these pictures on there and whatnot. And so, the whole idea is just to remember, where we came from, and it's just as important. I tell people all the time that if we forget, and even if in our own family, if we don't know where we came from and our progenitors in our own family, then we start to lose ourselves. And so when we know where we came from as our progenitors, your great-grandfather, your great-great-great-grandfather, and their stories, when we go through the trials, your kids go through the trials, they do better. There's been studies about this, how kids, when they know their progenitors, they do better. And I think it's the same way as we know the history and know our country and who served our country and go back those stories. Then when we come up with those trials and come up with those difficulties, we can remember how we got here and who gave it to us, and we can probably do a little bit better.
Definitely. That's well spoken. I mean, it's just an incredible thing. So, Hey, as you gone through, how many guys have you gotten so far to come through? And you know what? And just real quick, throw it out there because you have a web page, or it's 250
250faces.com.
faces.com.
Faces.com. So,
and it's on the artwork that I put out for this podcast this week.
Yeah,
and you can see it there, and you can go to it, and you can actually sign up to get this, especially if you're in the Henderson area. I know there's people all over the country that
like I was telling you earlier, I says, my project started because there's enough veterans in the Vegas area. I can photograph 250 without a problem. Yeah. Then the news got hold of it somehow, and I did a story, and then Reno found out. So I've been to Reno twice. I'm probably doing a third trip to Reno. I've been to Mesquite 3 times. I've been to Kingman, and recently he's been on a few news stations across the country have picked it up on different things. And I've had from San Diego to Connecticut to Kansas to Minnesota. People call me and say, or email me, say, I want to be a part of this. So I've got to figure a way how to make them a part of it. I mean, I'd love to go photograph everybody, but the reality is I got to still make a job.
You still got a business to run.
Business to run, man. I got a problem. It's a good problem, but I want to highlight these guys. I don't want to leave them out because they're from Connecticut or from wherever they're at. I don't want to leave them out and say, oh, well, you're not in Henderson, you don't count. That's BS. They do count. And I want to recognize them somehow. I'll figure that out and I'll make it happen.
So how many people have you got so far, Mike? Veterans.
I'm gonna guess I probably have got over 200, maybe 300 images so far, and I've got maybe 150 and 180 stories, ballpark.
Okay.
So I'm working on it. It's final call is coming up because my goal is to have this thing sometime in June before the 4th of July. I was hoping maybe Memorial Weekend, but I might have to push it back a little bit. So last call is coming up is to put a hard deadline on this project. I'll be photographing veterans forever, man. This is the coolest thing I've done. And my big umbrella, remember our veterans, one story at a time. I'll probably do something with that, make it, capture more stories and especially these younger veterans. I've got a lot of the older guys, but these guys who went Desert Storm on down, I don't have a lot of their stories, and so we want to focus on those guys.
Well, I know a lot of those guys too.
Yeah,
it's great. We got to get Chef JB in there too. I talked to Chef a little bit about it, and and
I'm definitely interested in that, Mike. And you touched on my heart. I do a lot of community things. I work with the Veterans Transition Resource Center and sit on their board as Aaron does now. And we help veterans all over. But I know the girls from the Honor Flight because I have the privilege of doing their Pancakes for Patriots every 6 months. They're in Henderson at the Eagles. So we feed the community out there quite often, and I have the girls twice a year. We serve about 500 people for pancakes and eggs, and I make different toppings, strawberry, blueberry, and that's coming up March 14th.
March 14th is coming up, so it's always good seeing you there. We appreciate what you do for the
Well, you know what? Maybe if you come this year, we can talk, or I can stop by your studio sometime in the near future, and we'll talk.
I'm always there unless I'm on a big shoot. I'm always there at that breakfast unless I'm on a big shoot.
Okay, good. Well, that's excellent to know. You know who I am. So,
100%.
So that's great. Yeah, it's really a privilege to be able to give back to the community. When I did my Coast Guard time, I was a seaman and I worked on a motor lifeboat. I was ill quite a bit, hence I'm a 100% retired or 100% disabled American veteran. But now is my time because, like Chief said, I'm a renowned chef, world-renowned chef. So I love to give back to the community in all different areas. So I love Henderson. I live on the east side, just down under Henderson, so I'm there quite a bit. So do you Do you? I've got a couple of older guys that might be interested in that with the VTRC, but if you've already got old guys, that's fine.
No. I'll take all the old guys, especially. I mean, their stories are very unique, and so I mean, if I can get more World War II guys, I've got about maybe 70, 75 World War II guys already. You know, from previous years, I'd love to get up to 100, and I would probably if I got up to 100, I would probably do just a photo book on them without a big lot of stories. It's just their name and kind of their name, rank, and serial number, real simple. But just the images alone are moving on that, you know, on what you see. Especially, I like showing their hands. These guys from World War II, Korea, Vietnam, their hands are just rawhide. They're strong. They're, you know, you can see they built things. They didn't sit around playing on the computer. They went around and they came home from their job. And they built America. They built what we have, you know. And if it wasn't for them building and, you know, saving the country, saving the world, and then coming home and building what we have, we wouldn't be on these computers or we have what we have today.
Yeah, that's it. I've got a kid. Well, I call him a kid. He's a man. He's like almost 40 now, or maybe a little over 40. But he was a door kicker, Army door kicker in Iraq and Afghanistan, and got blown up 3 times. And the third time, they thought he'd never walk or talk again. And they sent him to that special place at UCLA in California and got him up moving. And all of a sudden, he's walking, talking, and they said, "My God, you're a miracle. What do you want to do?" He says, "I want to be a chef." So they sent him to chef school. Now he works with Robert Irvine in feeding like kids at the White House and stuff. And I've mentored him for about 8 years now and worked on some government contracts with him, feeding the troops. And hell of a guy, man. Yeah. He's
it's always important to give back. I mean, like I say, I grew up here in Henderson, and so Henderson's been very good to me. And I've been a Boy Scouts for 35, 40 years with my boys. We're all Eagle Scouts. So just, you know, improving the community, helping the community. And again, that's the mentality, and that is the forefront of what I see of everyone I've interviewed, everyone I talk to. It's others first, me last. And that's just that's the mantra. I think it's, you know, God, country, family, and me. And that's the way I think a lot of people need to remember, because that's what's helped us. Right now, there's a lot of people in the younger ages who are, you know, got their phones and they're me type thing. And it's not about us. It's about how can we help. And I guess in my project, when this gallery display goes across the state, and people see these portraits, a lot of times people ask me, well, what's the goal? What do you want out of it? I want out of it that people look at those guys and say, these are rock stars. How can I be like them? My answer to them is go serve. Not that you have to serve military, but serve your community. Go help others. Go do something. Get more involved, and for your community, make it a better place.
Yeah, Mike, as you talk about that, you know, and that is something so cool. You know, it's hard to think of ourselves as rock stars, but you know, I often tell people, you know, I'm not a rock star, but I play one in real life sometimes when I have to. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I'm doing, even if I have a hammer in my hand. I'm not a carpenter, but I play one in real life sometimes. But the cool thing about it is when you're saying that is like you're telling everybody to be engaged in their life. And what's cool is like a guy like you is saying, hey, you know, you're a veteran. I want you to be engaged in your life and come to my studio and let me shoot some photos of you. Let me capture your story. I'm going to, you know, send you a document or, you know, it seems to me like you can give that to them as a piece of paper. They can handwrite when they served all the questions that you have. They're not really hard questions. It's not like an extensive story. I know I wrote mine pretty extensive when you asked.
Yeah. And I get both. I got guys who get here's like 2 lines and that's all. I'm not going to open wounds. You want to tell me very little? I got a guy who gave me a whole book in 10 pages, you know, so.
It looks, you know, I tried not to write a book, but it seemed like, you know, a book was being written. So I was like, oh shoot, I hope I didn't give Mike too much, but, you know, thanks a lot but I was digging your program and, you know, talk about some of the ways that these guys can either get involved to come to the studio, or how is, obviously we just talked about 250 faces.com, but what else is there for them to do to get involved with this, to find you, to do this? Obviously they can do it through me. Some of these other cool things we're going to talk about that we want to talk about at the end too, but I want to just kind of
the best way for them to to get involved and just be recognized. And I'm not going to put a big spotlight. I just want to it's in the book and in everything else I do, it's just a snapshot. Big long stories will go on the website, but the easiest way, if they just go to 250faces.com and they can nominate themselves, they can nominate a buddy. I've had a lot of wives nominate their husbands, which has been kind of cool. You guys are quiet. You guys are not gonna. And again, I find out most of these guys, most of the veterans. There's a few who want to kind of shout from the rooftops, and that's fine. But most of you guys are like, let me. I did what I did. I had to do, and I went and did it. They asked me, and I went. And enough said. Let's just get back to work. And that's what's kind of, again, it's kind of cool. It's not about, if you watch the hockey team this last weekend, what'd they do?
Yeah,
they brag about themselves and say, "Yeah, I was cool." They talked about, we love our country. We love this. We're proud of our country. We love that the military who's gave us these opportunities to do this. We're thankful for Canada and their participate. They gave gratitude to everybody but themselves. And it says that's what it's about. Let's give some gratitude on that.
That is.
It's just my way of showing my way. I didn't serve. I've had family members who served, but just my way of showing my appreciation for the men and women who have served our country, so I can be able to do what I do. So they can reach out. The best place is at 250faces.com. They can always go on my email me at Mikel at Mikels Photography. But 250 Faces is probably the easiest way. When I have when we get an email, get the gallery set, everything set, we'll let everybody know where it's at. I might ask for volunteers to help set up.
There you go.
No, that's good. And your studio is really cool.
Volunteers, Mike.
Yeah. Well, my staff, I have a big staff. It's called Me, Myself, and I. So,
it's cool. Yeah. It's cool. And you know what? It's cool because you got multi-dynamic rooms. Like you're in the office space, come in here, you check in and then all of a sudden you're like, hey, you're behind the camera. You're like, hey, come over here. We're behind the camera now. You're like in that room. And then you're like the presentation room and it's up on the screen. You get to see all these cool pictures. Yep. But talk about your studio, man. What was the idea behind all the setup and all the cool things that you've done with the studio? Because, some people might be interested in that. What does it take to put something like that together? I don't know if I want to get into that all the time too, but it's kind of cool because that's your business. Obviously it's hard to tell that was ever a Winchell's Donuts, right? And,
the Winchell's Donut was its own building. That building I'm in now is 15 years old. So they tore the Winchell's Donut shop down out there. So, but it's the same property. So, I've been doing this for 35 years as a photographer, and so I'm old school on that. And the film days, and back when I first started 35 years ago, we had the big film cameras and the big, Mias and the RZs, everything like that. You wanted a family portrait, a corporate portrait, you would come and see me. You had no choice. You come see me or someone else like me. And so when I started my own company 25 years ago, the same kind of model. I says, we've got you wanted a nice camera room where you can have families up to 30. I get families up to 30 all the time in the studio. Have a lot of different sets and playroom. I call it my playroom, where I can just do different things.
Props.
And so, props. I've got swords. I've got boxing gloves, old vintage sporting goods and stuff. I got a lot of fun stuff, and smoke machines and all that kind of fun things. But the whole idea is about the studios to have fun. A lot of people think, well, it's like Olin Mills. You don't like, no, this is not an Olin Mills studio. I've got creative. I got Hollywood spotlights that they, big can lights that they have in there, so I can really dress it up and have some fun with it. I try to make it look as Hollywood-esque as that kind of a feel, cinematographically. I try to make it feel that way. And I believe that in-person sells. I think too many people nowadays, especially with the photographers out there now, because once the digital cameras came in play, I had to elevate myself in what I do and not just be a photographer, but be more of an artist. And so I developing my skills more artistically, more cinematographically, watching the lighting and learning learning more lighting values and what works and doesn't work. 90% of use, I'm going to control the light. People say, well, I'm a natural light photographer, and that's fine. When I teach, I tell them, I says, be a natural light. I don't care, but control the light, control it so it does what you want. So it enhances and don't be afraid of shadows. Don't, make your face so flat. Give a dimension, give character, give drama. That's the whole thing. Photography is actually, photo is light and photography is recording. So you're recording light is what you're doing. And so I don't play well in the sandbox. When everyone got a digital camera and became a photographer. So I elevated myself from what I do. And it's a battle. I have to go out and make things happen. You just can't wait at the door anymore, And so I've been blessed, and the good Lord's given me a talent and to share. And I know that with that talent, I'm supposed to share it and give back. And so that's what I'm doing with this veteran project and other projects I have. I give back and make things happen. But yeah, it's a fun gig.
That's good. That's amazing. Brian Colburn behind the scenes here, sitchradio.com. I talked a little bit about it when I was at your shop, how he took some of the veterans and at Warrior Built, and he brought us in, and he was teaching us how to use our phones a lot better and why the lighting was important and the little features on the phones. And we started taking the photography classes and why they were important. And that's why I became kind of interested in what you're doing. And that's why I could really appreciate your studio a lot more. And the things that you were kind of, the way you were taking the shots and setting us up for success, it became kind of interesting. Brian's just getting back into his photography and doing the photo walks and the different things. So, with all this stuff, there's probably a lot of people that might be interested in. Do you teach photography? Do you teach veterans photography? Do you do any of this teaching anymore, or do you at all?
Well, I used to do a lot of teaching with CSN, the community college, and then I was the photographer, the teacher at UNLV's continuing education, and that just I love teaching. I love it. So I left that because it just, I given up 2 Saturdays, for a small amount of money, and the students were paying a lot of money, and I was like, I'm giving a whole Saturday. I can make more money by doing one gig, than teaching. So I'm working on getting that syllabus together, and so where I can have classes in my studio and do, a 6-hour class, or it's going to happen probably this year. This project's taking a lot of my time on that, so I had to kind of shelf that to the side a little bit. But the goal is to be a mentor. Been doing this 35 years. I'm 63 years old. I mean, if people say, when you retire, what are you going to do? Take photos? I'm still going to take photos. But I want to. I can't take everything, all the knowledge I have, and not share it. So I need to, get that out. So there'll be a time, and hopefully within the next year, where I can help and develop others and mentor them and give them the tools and the ideas that I have.
That's amazing. It's amazing that, you got the backdrops, everything. The studio is just amazing. I was just thoroughly impressed to come down there and hang out with you for a few, and especially your guests, the Frozen Chosen, the Chosen Reservoir, battle of that time frame, and just that guy. And
he has some amazing stories, and like I say, for 94, you shook his hand. He's got a handshake of a 20-year-old.
Yeah, he was just cruising. I wouldn't have had no idea that guy was 94. He was maybe 70, maybe. But you probably got some amazing stories with a lot of the guys that maybe you want to share some of the things that stand out in your mind as far as taking some of these photos. Obviously you talked about the hands. It's really kind of cool to capture that, because the building of this country and the backbone on that, some of that stuff. But if you want to share some more of the stories that you're kind of like thinking about.
One of my favorite guys I photographed was Dean Whitaker. You may have heard of him. Chef, you might have even met him a long time. Dean Whitaker. Yeah. Just an amazing guy. I photographed him about 6 years ago, and we would see each other all the time at different events and whatnot. He was 94, 95 when I photographed him, 96, I think maybe. But at a young man's age, World War II, he was in the Air Force, was a navigator and bombardier at about 2021. You know, and I look at all these kids. I'm going, 21. What are you doing? 20 years old. What did you do? You know, you're not opening bay doors, dropping 100-pound, 300-pound bombs on a country, and doing that. And it's just remarkable how he went through it. But about his 18th mission or so, his tail wing got shot off. And so there's actually a picture of it, because in another plane that was up there, there was a National Geographic photographer who caught that. So he's got that in his book. He's got that. And he tells a story that when the guys they're in the plane, their parachutes, because it's hard to get around, I guess, in the plane, their parachutes are kind of like half on, just kind of, they're not all buckled up. He said it'd be a little harder. So when they got shot out, tell the guys if they got a bell. So he's getting ready. Bell's at 30,000 whatever feet it was, and he's trying to get a chute on. While he's going down, he's trying to pull this bad boy and get buckled and do everything he needs to do. And he says, "I'm getting close. I got to pull." So he looks down and pulls, and he looks at his outfit and the parachute. Everything was buckled. Everything was attached. And he says, "I have no clue." And we both looked at each other with tears in our eyes, and says, "We know exactly what happened." He goes, "Yes," because he was a good faith Christian man, and he said there was angels and on that. And as he's coming down, him and his buddies are coming down. There's farmers out there, shooting ducks out of the air. They're shooting the And there's a colonel or an officer at a POW camp that was right there. They were coming close into falling where they fell, coming down. And this officer told the farmers, quit shooting the guys. Basically saved Dean's life, on that. I mean, you think Germany and America, they say, yeah, shoot these guys. We don't care. Shoot them. But it just goes to the point of the human interest story that, just because they were German doesn't make they were bad. They were following orders, just like we were, and he had compassion and, took him in POW camp, whole 9 yards. He did the march for up to another camp. He was in POW for 9 months, and Patton liberated him out of the camp he was in. But just this story alone, and there's more to it on that, but just remarkable that, how he survived all that and things that he went through on that. There's and other guys who were, the Korea guy was a POW. He was a machine gunner. And so those are the first guys that get taken out because they don't want, get them. He was captured, and he had to go from the bottom of Korea to the 32nd parallel, DMZ zone, in that march. And they marched during the nighttime, so they couldn't be seen. And they would hide in mud huts during the daytime, and they had mush to eat. And if anybody fell for lack of energy or anything like that, they couldn't get up in a few seconds. That was their grave. They'd shoot them right there and just leave them, on that. So you hear these stories all the time, and you hear the good ones, and it goes to show that it's a different time, and thank the good Lord above that we don't have as much as that now. It's like Midnight Hammer went through a month and a half or 2 months ago, in and out in 32 hours, that we can do some damage from far away without sending our young men in there to go hand-to-hand combat on type things. And I guess the last thing I'll tell you about the story is one of my favorites guys. There's three gentlemen, they're in the list, and Monty was one of them. So they're all went to Monty's house and photographed these three guys, all in their early 90s, every one of them, World War II. And the wife, she at New York, Jewish accent, that thick, real thick Jewish New York accent. Michael, come in here. We're going to feed you. It's like, no, let me get it. She goes, Michael, I'm Jewish. We're going to feed you. So, and they're big spread. And so I'm always like that. And pretty soon, about a half hour into it, she goes, ladies, let's go in the other room, let the boys talk. I'm going, who does that nowadays? That's just, So for 3-4 hours, we sat there. They told me their story. We laughed. We cried. I'm like, here's this, 55 at the time, about 55, 56-year-old, having so much fun and just laughing my butt off with these 90-year-olds. I mean, that was just the coolest thing that I can remember. And hearing the stories, if you remember the story, the movie Cinderella Man, remember that movie?
Yeah.
With, what's the name now? Anyway, the boxer, about the boxing. It's a true story. Yeah. Well, he knew the participants, and he boxed with them back in New York, in that area. He knew all those guys back there. The other guy was a corpsman at Normandy. And after everything was over, his job was to take the boats and go out and pick up the bodies. He talked about that, and the other guy was a rear gunner in the big 52s, I believe. And he was like 19. And a whole battalion of these big planes were flying from England over. And as he's looking down, he saw, the battalion of, so a few hundred planes. He goes, oh, I guess it's not a vacation. This is kind of what I'm in the mix of it now. So, just remarkable men. And just, for me to have so much fun with those guys, I swear to people, there's got to be a sin somewhere about that for having so much fun with 90-year-olds. But those are the things I get to hear and tell stories and share and trying to keep up with these new stories and keep up with all that. I just got an email from someone or a phone call today that her husband passed away. She's from California. She wants, she saw it on the military.com. She wants to be part of her husband. And he was a lieutenant colonel general. I mean, he was a big shot. He served a few years in World War II. He was in Korea. He did 2 tours in Vietnam. He was a lieutenant general, major general, Gwynn. Last name was Gwynn. So they call him Buffalo Gwynn or something like that. The story, just watching the biography was like, holy crap. I mean, these guys are, again, men's men, and men nowadays, I like to see that strength come back, that, you don't have to be strength to bully, but you need strength to protect, strength to care, strength to give back, strength to uplift, strength to build, and that's, it's kind of why, veterans, bikers, and cowboys, because they just men, So those are some fun stories I've had over the years.
Hey, that's great to hear, Mike. And thanks for sharing. Thanks for being here and telling your story, and why just coming up and being a businessman and really kind of putting together a passion project that really matters and really kind of encompasses the love of this country and the love and like you said, the building blocks and the humility of really being of service to our fellow man of what freedom really means to this country. And it's always one generation away from going away. They always talk 100%. About it, right?
100%.
And it's guys like you that are still making it happen and giving us an opportunity to just show up somewhere and just shake your hand and be like, hey, thanks a lot for being a conduit, a way to kind of still believe in hope and in history. And that's awesome. And Chef, you got anything for him before we just ask him to give any last final words and all that good stuff?
Okay. Mike, one of the things that I talked to a couple of old Air Force guys that were in World War II and in the B-52s, and like you said, they fly up about 30,000 feet. Yeah. One of the worst things that they had to overcome or deal with constantly was how cold it was. At 30,000 feet, it is cold. He said, just to give you an example, when you're up there, you don't have a bathroom. It's not like flying in jets today, so you use your helmet, the liner of your helmet, and you pee in it, and within 5 or 6 minutes, it's frozen. You don't have to worry about it till you come back down. And hopefully, he said, we empty it on the ground. Either that or it's blown up in the air or we don't make it, Yeah. But I couldn't even fathom being that cold for, sometimes their missions were hours and hours.
Yeah.
And I can't fathom that, I mean, if you said to an 18-year-old, you're going to go up and fly and you're going to join the Air Force and you're going to be in a plane, these guys, they were signing up by the carloads because that was the thing to do. We were going to war.
Yeah.
And, I remember my whole family. I mean, all my cousins went to Vietnam. I didn't go to Vietnam. I went in the Coast Guard because I wanted to rescue people or feed people. And so thank God I did that. But you know what? I never saw any combat, but I got my fill in the Coast Guard of rescuing people and helping people out. And, you know, so Mike, it's great that you're recording some of that for prosperity and for future generations. But, you know, some of us, no clue, you know, especially some of the younger ones. You start talking and it's like they're busy texting on their phone.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, when somebody starts talking when we were kids about war, man, we were all in it, you know. I mean, we couldn't pay enough attention, you know, because that was something that, you know, was born and bred in all of us, the freedom and the fight. So thank you very much for your service. You definitely have a servant heart, we can tell. And as Aaron and I do, I mean, that's why we do this show and let people know that there's a lot of good people out there. And we really appreciate you. And I'm going to shake your hand, but I'm also going to give you a hug when I see you, okay?
No problem. I'll take that.
It's all about the
love. Not a problem. I'll be there on the 14th. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome. Hey, Mike, any way, feel free to put any last final words. And again, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, put that out there. Obviously, you can get a hold of Mike through me if you want, but go ahead and put any final words out there for you.
You know, I just say there's a lot of guys out there I talk to. They say, you know, well, I didn't do much. I was just a cook, or I was just a mechanic. I really, I didn't do anything. I wasn't on the front line. You don't have to be on the front line to serve. You know, I think throughout history, it's only been 1%, maybe 2% of the country, of the population, that's gone and raised their hand and says, I will go and defend the Constitution of the United States and protect the freedom of others on that. That's a small fraction of this country, 1 or 2% on that. And that just puts you in a whole new category. And so to me, it's like, I don't care if they were a mechanic, if they were an engineer, or if they were on the front line, you know, as a tank commander, whatever. You went and did a job, whether you wanted to or not. You were asked to serve, or you signed up and you said, I'll sign up. Tell me where you want me to go, you know, and it's important that we recognize all those guys, because it takes about 9 to 10 guys behind the line to support the guys on the front line. And so if it wasn't for those guys, the guys on the front line wouldn't have anything. And then, you know, what would we be as a country today? So for those guys who are like saying, well, it's not about me, I didn't do much. Yeah, they did. They raised their hand. It says, I will go and defend the Constitution of the United States and the freedom for others. That says a lot about your character, about what you do. And that's what the whole thing's about. It's not about saving Private Ryan. You're on the front line. It's not about that. It's about you're part of the 1 or 2% of this country that went and did things for others and put yourself behind, you know, put yourself last on through there. So I appreciate you guys serving. Appreciate everyone out there who's listening, who served and who allowed me to do my things that I love to do. You reach me at 250faces.com and reach out, or mikelsphotography.com. That's MIKELS photography.com. You can see there, but my friend, you can see there. The reason you're smiling so well is because your wife was with you. That's why you look so good.
Hey, you got me all pressed up. You ironed my, came and tidied me up, put me in position.
Details, details.
Yeah, got me all squared away. So that's a good stuff. I really appreciated coming to see you for that. So thank you.
Thank you guys for all you do. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to you guys today.
Oh yeah. Well, this is Combat Vet Vision. This is a platform, and Chef, you got a couple things to say before I close this out?
Yeah. It's all about being a service, even after we were in the service. And you work with the PTSD Foundation, the Veterans Transition Resource Center with me there. And, I keep doing things for the chefs association, and now I'm doing things for St. Jude's Ranch, workforce development, and some of those kids, trying to bring some kids into the into the workforce that would probably not be there if it wasn't for other people in the community that want to teach them not only how to work but life skills also, so that they can be those kind of citizens and good citizens, and also how to have a servant heart, how to donate your time and give back. It's not about me, it's about us. And that's so great. And the last thing is great news on my front. I was nominated for Chef of the Year this year for the Chefs Association, and Las Vegas is pretty well known for food and things, and I was voted as Chef of the Year. So I will be. Yeah, we'll let you know when we're going to have the dinner. I'll have you and Victoria there too with us. Okay, you can wear that suit you were wearing. See, you can go debonair that night.
Nice.
All right.
Well, I just got to say, you mentioned so many things. Having a servant heart and being humble. It's not about us, and it isn't. I didn't become a chief by being me. I became a chief because I had others that did so many outstanding things that
needed you
and I just happened to be part of the team. And I remember receiving an award one time and feeling really upset about it, because I felt like the guys that worked with me and for me in a lot of ways deserved it, because they are the ones that put in all the work. And I was super frustrated about this process of awards, but it's them that got me to this position. And it's, guys like you that allowed me to be part of the Veterans Transition Resource Center and the Warrior Built Foundation, the PTSD Foundation of America. And I get to serve still. And it's Brian Colburn, SitchRadio.com, who's hiding behind the buttons of this whole project here, who pushed me to be a podcast guy. And I'm not a podcaster, but I play one once a week. And there's just a lot of people behind the scenes on everything that are doing stuff. And I'm just humble enough to be a path watcher. And I love to see what people's paths are, what story they want to tell. And it's great to have a business owner just like Mike to come on deck today to kind of say, hey man, he really loves the country, and he loves, his uncle's project is what got him going. And the photography thing is just such a cool way. And I know, Brian, you just started photography again, and you're getting back out there and pushing those buttons behind the camera. So that's really cool too. And I mean, there's just so many amazing things. And talking about pushing buttons, teaching me how to use all this equipment so that I can set up the camera and the mic and all this stuff. And we'll be in the studio here pretty soon at the VTRC here in Las Vegas, and doing some incredible things from there. And this can be done anywhere. I mean, I could do it from my phone and everything like that. Brian, you've set us up for success no matter what. But there's something incredible about being able to talk to veterans, having your battle buddies. It's not going to be you that's necessarily going to reach out and get these photos taken, because I've already thrown Chef under the bus. I'm like, hey, you got to go. I'm already kind of nominating him to go over there and get his photo taken. So hopefully he gets over there with Rosa, his wife.
I will. I'm definitely interested in that.
Yeah. See, but it's that battle buddy. It's your battle buddy it's really going to matter, because it's a connection to connections that are going to really help, keep us motivated to move forward in these really cool directions. And Chef, thanks for introducing me to a lot of different ways. And, I wouldn't know my way around this town or my way around the veteran community had it not been for you. So there's so many amazing things that happen because of the people that we associate ourselves with. And, for those of you that need a warrior group, for those of you that need that kind of stuff, hit me up. I'm all over social media. I'm all over everything. So you can find me almost anywhere and anytime. Like my brother always says, he's done so much with so little for so long that he could do almost anything with absolutely nothing. That's such a cool statement that I kind of believe in that now. So,
Yeah.
and that's, and if you're a lover of America and you're a lover of our military and you're doing something that's really spectacular, you want to come on my show and you want to make something of it, you want to talk about it, let's do it. That's what it's about. I know from time to time I get hit up from different sides of situations, and I want to have you on the show and talk about what you're doing, because very few people get on my show that I don't necessarily know, but it's usually somebody that knows somebody. Very rare does that happen. It's usually somebody that I directly have some sort of contact with, or but I definitely love telling the veteran stories and having them come on here. We got a couple stories coming up in the future. It goes under my category of creating chaos, and this is the chaos that's in our minds. A lot of our stories are sugar coated for the most part, but some of these guys really want to get into their mindset of being able to explain and articulate some of the more deeper, darker things that we go through day to day that exhaust our minds, hearts, and souls. And if we're not engaged in the warrior groups, if we're not engaged in care, if we're not engaged in taking breaks, pacing ourselves, how we manage through life, those things are super important. How we manage our family life and dynamics and, take on challenges, it becomes a dark place if we don't manage that in a proper manner. And I think that's going to be an important subject matter. I think, some of you may have seen JB Stark come on not too long ago. He told a great story about his story, and, I've been talking to him. He's looking forward to kind of getting back on here and talking about some really darker side of the things that he's had to face, to include his retirement that's always jacked up, to the dates that they won't change on one side. And, the systems sometimes get in our own ways, and it's so frustrating. Those become a problem. So we're going to talk about some of those things that really kind of put those barriers up. But the fact that we still have each other and we have battle buddies that help us make it through it. But if you're doing it on your own, it's going to be very difficult. But if you have a battle buddy or people,
not good. You know what? Together we will achieve. If you're doing something alone, it's like being in a bad neighborhood. You don't want to go there by yourself, and it's real important. And it's that 10,000-pound phone that you got to pick up or dial to talk to somebody else, because they might need you more than you need them. So, that's what it's like Aaron. I can call him anytime and we click, and that's what it's about. So that's great. Thank you for being there for me.
Thanks for being there for me, Chef. Hey, this is Combat Vet Vision. Thanks for listening. Thanks for being part of the show. Thanks for just checking us out. Until next time, this is all we got. Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
Out.
The only way, and we need nothing more. The only way, together forever, that's for sure.